Do you know what's worse than one bad season of television? 5 bad seasons of television. And let me tell you, we got 4 more to go when it comes to the Rings of Power. And I don't think anybody is really truly looking forward to this unless it's maybe people like me who are going to watch it and tear it apart. Because the first season was absolute garbage and got worse, and the second season looks like that progression is here to stay. Regression, downward spiral, whatever you want to call it. But deciding whether or not a character is what the character has been presented to be, even though you haven't put a name on said character, and thinking that the audience didn't know, well, that's just a whole new kind of dumb. And that's what I call the Rings of Power. So, we got a brand new article coming to us from That Park Place called The Lord of the Rings of Power showrunners address whether the stranger is Gandalf. Really? That's like trying to suggest that, I don't have a merchandise store right there called beachpunk.us. You should probably go check it out. Got some great stuff over there. Some of the stuff is about to disappear. So if you've got your eye on something, this is probably the right time to go and use one of the discount codes I provided, which I'll also do at the end of today's video with the secret word. Make sure you put the secret word in the comments, and I'll make sure you get a 10% discount through July 14th. Anyway, that's enough self-promotion. Let's move on to the actual story. Now, the Lord of the Rings of Power showrunners address whether the stranger is Gandalf. Of course he is. You brought in Istari to Middle-earth during the Second Age, which wasn't when they came to Middle-earth. It was the Third Age when we got the Istari, and like the likes of Gandalf, and I believe 6 others if memory serves. And you also have introduced a lot of places that were never supposed to be visited or had not been visited in Middle-earth, and that's an entirely other conversation, some of which we tackled today over on Views with Hughes of Agenda Free News' channel. And let me tell you, we got in-depth and in the weeds on some Tolkien lore, some of which I couldn't properly remember. So thank goodness for Hughes, who seems to be quite scholarly when it comes to this particular show. Nobody else is, though, because nobody knows where they're coming from or why. Again, John writes, and he did a good job with this one, that the Rings of Power showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, recently addressed whether the stranger, played by Daniel Wayman, is Gandalf. Well, of course he's Gandalf. If not, he's an Istari that reached Middle-earth well before it was ever recorded. I guess they had an interview with Collider, and they were asked about whether the stranger telling Nori, when in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot, always follow your nose. That was confirmation that the character was Gandalf, given that that is a paraphrase of what Gandalf says in Peter Jackson's adaptation of the Fellowship of the Ring. And I would say anything aside from that would be the stink of cow manure. Payne informed the outlet, we try to make it delightful in that there are several possibilities of what can end up meaning. Could that mean that the stranger is Gandalf and that he says that, then he says it later on? It could definitely mean that. Well, I think that probably because they hadn't quite acquired the rights to use Gandalf by the time they were making the first season, maybe they have access to the character now through a special communication between Warner Brothers and Embracer. It's hard to say. But some people have suggested that it's possibly Saruman, which I would disagree. A lot of the lore breaking that's been done to date only broke some of the origins of some of these characters a little bit. They also say that there could be a delightful path that could come out of either eventuality, either one or the other. So we like to keep those doors open. It's fun to engage with the story and think of the possibilities. And again, I would hate to think that they would try to recreate this wonderful character in the form of Christopher Lee's Saruman. I think it would be a disservice. So neither Gandalf nor Saruman would have arrived in Middle-earth in the Second Age. Of course not. They would have been there in the Third Age when the Istari actually showed up there. None of this makes any sense, and that's something that irritates true Tolkien fans, including me. And again, I'm very frustrated, even though my memory's somewhat shaken up, but this isn't the first time the origin of Mithril is incorrect in this abomination of a show, along with many other factors and many other sources and many other races that are now being misportrayed in the show. So, Tolkien wrote in Appendix B, when maybe 1,000 years had passed and the first shadow had fallen on Greenwood the Great, the Istari, or wizards, appeared in Middle-earth. It was afterwards said they came out of the far west and were messengers sent to contest the power of Sauron and to unite all those who had the will to resist him. But they were forbidden to match his power with power or to seek to dominate elves or men by force and fear, which is also true. This blows my mind. It goes on, of course, in as it was written, that the two highest of this order, of whom it was said there were 5, were called by the Eldar Curanir, the man of skill, the Mithrandir, the Grey Pilgrim, but by men in the north, Saruman and Gandalf. Curanir journeyed into the east, but dwelt at last in Isengard. Mithrandir was closest in friendship with the Eldar, and wandered mostly in the west, and never made himself a lasting abode. Now, the Wandering Wizard, he's referred to in The Hobbit, and so on and so forth. Ian McKellen was genius playing Gandalf, and even he is being dishonored. So, despite Tolkien making it clear that wizards did not show up until the Third Age, McKay explained why they added the stranger to the show. We always felt from the very beginning that you need all the ingredients. We always talk about a Thanksgiving meal. You want the turkey, you want the cranberry sauce, you want the stuffing. We felt like Lord of the Rings show without a wizard who felt the things that wizards in the Lord of the Rings make you feel would just feel like missing the point, knowing full well that they were lore-breaking. This is why this is Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings in name only, and why I think a lot of people have walked away from the show. But I ask you, have you walked away from this show? Is this something that you're interested in viewing in the second season? Can you believe that this will succeed? Or will it follow the same pattern of the previous season and end up with a beginning audience of some, or with a remaining audience that's 60% less? I think those are good questions. I'm interested in your answers. So, as usual, please use the comment section below to give me your thoughts on any of the questions I've asked, or on, well, basically anything regarding the show. I think it's a hot mess, and I wouldn't suffer it if I wasn't doing this right now as a job. Regardless of that job, I've got another one, and that is to give you the word of the day. Today's word of the day is Nazgul, and that'll get you a 10% discount code in the comment section if you put Nazgul down in the comments below. Hit the thumbs up if you're not subscribed. Do that too. Make that little red button gray, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss the weekday live shows, the weekend live shows, or any of the videos I put out throughout the week. On that note, as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, check out That Game Place, because that's a great channel. And until next time, see ya.